You're watching Football Daily, and here's our top 10 of the craziest football fights. 10. Roy Keane vs Alan Shearer. It wouldn't be a list about senseless violence without an appearance from Roy Keane. Incredibly, in 2001, the Irishman managed to pick a fight with Alan Shearer, a man so boring that if he stood in front of paint drying on a wall, he'd blend in. Man United were away at Newcastle, and the Magpies had the lead going into the last few minutes. As the ball went out for a United throw, Shearer tried to stop Keane taking it quickly, and the Red Devils skipper responded by chucking the ball at his head. Shearer gave Kieron some lip in response, and the United man went ballistic, shoving, swinging a punch, missing, and getting a red card for his trouble. And to this day, the men still hate each other, with Keane saying afterwards, "I was sent off for pushing him, but if you're going to get sent off, you might as well punch him properly." 9. Ruud van Nistelrooy vs Arsenal. Man United vs Arsenal has long been a tasty fixture, but the 2003 edition, christened the Battle of Old Trafford, was an especially dirty affair. United committed 13 fouls and Arsenal 18, with 8 yellow cards handed out, 2 of them to Patrick Vieira, who was sent off in the 80th minute for a kick at Van Nistelrooy, who had bundled the Frenchman to the ground. The score was 0-0, but in the final minute Forlan won a penalty and Van Nistelrooy stepped forward. He thundered his effort onto the bar and was mobbed by celebrating Arsenal players, receiving a couple of meaty slaps as the final whistle went. Both sides had a lot of tough characters. Oh, and Cristiano Ronaldo was also there, so a full-on scrap was only narrowly averted. In the aftermath, Laurent, Martin Keown, Vieira and Ray Parlour were banned for a combined 9 games. However, the Gunners had the last laugh, as the draw enabled them to go an entire season unbeaten. 8. Totti vs Balotelli. Francesco Totti has a reputation as one of football's gentlemen, so it was going to take someone special to tempt him into a scrap. And Mario Balotelli is pretty special, over the years managing to piss off Jose Mourinho, Roberto Mancini and basically everyone in Milan and Manchester. In 2010, Inter Milan and Roma faced each other in the Coppa Italia final. The game was bad-tempered, and when Totti came on at half-time, Balotelli told him, "You're finished, Grandad," continuing to insult him for the rest of the match. The Gladiator, true to his name, booted the young forward as hard as he could and received his marching orders as Inter won 1-0. Balotelli went on to accuse Totti of racism, which the Roma skipper denied, though he said the media outcry over his conduct had almost led to him retiring. Mario, who by this time was being publicly criticised by his teammates, left for Man City just 3 months later. 7. David Batty vs Graham Lasso. Number 7 involved 2 forgettable names, but any fight between players on the same side is surely deserving of a place. In 1995, the world was upside down, as Blackburn Rovers were the Premier League holders and were in the Champions League, where they lined up against Spartak Moscow. 4 minutes into the game in Russia, Batty gained possession in midfield, but Lasso tried to take the ball off him, clattering into his teammate and giving a throw-in away to Spartak. Batty, incensed, ran over to give the defender a bollocking, and Lasso responded with a punch to Batty's throat. The incident was made even funnier by the fact that Lasso broke his hand in the attack, while both men received a dressing down from their skipper, the famously calm and sensible Tim Sherwood. 6. Pardew vs Mailer. Nothing makes us want to sit down with a big bag of popcorn than a manager getting involved in a fight, and Alan Pardew has given us some great entertainment over the years. From claiming he couldn't be racist because his wife is Spanish, to calling Manuel Pellegrini a old Pards is a goldmine of dipshit laddishness. But he managed to outdo himself during a Newcastle Hull match in 2014. With the Magpies 3-1 up in the 70th minute, the game was all but over. But Hull's David Mailer bumped into Pardew while retrieving the ball for a throw-in. Outraged, Pardiola responded like any boy from Wimbledon and gave Mailer a little headbutt. He received a 3-match stadium ban, a 4-match touchline ban, was fined £60,000 by the FA and £100,000 by Newcastle. In fairness though, that silver hair didn't move an inch. 5. Eden Hazard vs the Ball Boy. Let's preface this one by pointing out that ball boys are always dickheads. They waste time, apparently can't throw a football, and are basically there to watch matches for free. But Eden Hazard, hardly the world's hilarious man, let his anger get the better of him in 2013. Chelsea had hilariously lost 2-0 to Swansea in the first leg of the League Cup semi-final. but in the second match in Wales, the score was 0-0 with 15 minutes to go. The ball went out of play behind the goal, and as Hazard went to get it, a ball boy threw himself on top of it, preventing a quick restart. Hazard tried to kick the ball out from underneath the kid, who went into Sergio Busquets mode, rolling around and clutching his ribs. Hazard got a red card, while the ball boy later auctioned the jacket he was wearing that night for £28,600. 4. Joey Barton versus the world. The last day of the 2011-12 season was a great day for football. There was relegation intrigue, a battle for European places, and City pinching the Premier League title from underneath United's noses. But often forgotten is Joey Barton's contribution. QPR thought they needed a draw against Man City to stay up, but Barton still couldn't control his temper and was sent off on 55 minutes for a tangle with Carlos Tevez. Never one to go quietly, the Scouser kicked Aguero and nutted Vincent Kompany before being dragged off the field, trying to fight Balotelli along the way. QPR took a 2-1 lead minutes later, but with a man advantage, City racked up 44 shots, with goalkeeper Paddy Kenny making an amazing 13 saves before eventually conceding again. In the end though, both clubs celebrated, as Bolton failed to win and were relegated instead. Barton was eventually sent out to Marseille on loan. 3. Lee Bowyer versus Kieron Dyer. If you think being 3-0 down to Aston Villa at home couldn't get any worse, imagine being a Newcastle fan and watching two of your own players have a scrap on the halfway line. We have to roll the clock back to 2005 to find this particular shambles that saw England's one-cap wonder Lee Bowyer take on 33-cap Kieron Dyer in the ultimate handbag fight. Both players were furious at each other, and when Dyer refused to pass Bowyer the ball, all hell broke loose, resulting in shirt pulling, scratching and shouting before peacemaker Gareth Barry eventually broke them up. Needless to say, both players saw red cards in what can only be described as one of the Premier League's most embarrassing, crazy fights. 2. Canio versus the ref. Refs are often the worst people on the pitch, and yet they seldom seem to suffer any consequences. But sideburn maniac Paolo Di Canio put that right during a match between Sheffield Wednesday and Arsenal in 1998. Once again, Patrick Vieira was involved, getting fouled by Di Canio, then fouling him back, then getting fouled again. Both men were shown red cards, but by this time, Di Canio was on an MMA rampage, gouging Martin Keown's eye, kicking everyone in sight, and then shoving referee Paul Alec to the ground. In fairness to the Italian, the ref did go down a bit too easily, but the FA failed to see the funny side, slapping the maddest Roman since Nero with an 11-match ban and a £10,000 fine. 1. Mourinho versus Villanova. Jose Mourinho doesn't exactly have a reputation as the nicest man in football, but even his most hardened supporters were shocked by an incident in 2011. In the 94th minute of El Clasico, with Barcelona leading 3-2 in an already incredibly heated game, Marcelo flew into a tackle on Cesc Fabregas that resulted in a red card and a mass brawl. As everything kicked off, both sets of coaches clashed on the touchline, and it wasn't until TV replays showed the fight that Mourinho was caught gouging at the eye of the late Barca coach. In the immediate aftermath of the disgraceful act, Mourinho flat out refused to apologise to Villanova, claiming that he was defending the honour of Los Blancos. Mourinho was banned along with Villanova, who had just shoved him in return, and it took nearly a year before the Portuguese eventually admitted that he regretted the incident and apologised. So there we have it, but what do you guys at home think? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, why don't you click here for loads more great content and down there to subscribe. And as always guys, we'll catch you later.